Dead silence, that's what fell over the entire wrestling world earlier today. Not the kind of silence that happens when a crowd holds its breath before a big move. No. This was different. This was the kind of silence that makes the hair on the back of your neck stand straight up. The kind of silence that tells you something monumental, something once thought impossible, has just happened. Because today, the Deadman spoke. And when the Undertaker speaks, the world stops and listens. Welcome back to Wrestling Impact, the channel that never sleeps when the wrestling world is on fire. And right now, people, the wrestling world is not just on fire. It is engulfed in flames, and standing right in the middle of those flames, arms stretched wide, eyes rolling back, is the most iconic figure this sport has ever produced. I'm talking about Mark William Calloway. I'm talking about the Phenom. I'm talking about the man who turned a wrestling ring into a sacred ground where careers go to die. The Undertaker has just made a shocking announcement, declaring his entry into the 2026 Elimination Chamber. Take a moment. Let that sink in. Really let it wash over you. Because this isn't a rumor. This isn't a teaser. This isn't some cryptic social media post that has people guessing. This is a full, direct, unambiguous declaration from The Undertaker himself that he is stepping back inside the cold, steel, unforgiving structure, and he is doing it on one of WWE's biggest stages of the year. And I promise you, by the time we finish this video today, you are going to understand exactly why this announcement has shaken the wrestling world to its absolute core. Let me take you back. Because to understand what this moment means, you need to understand who this man is. Not just as a performer, not just as a character, but as a legend who transcended every definition of what a professional wrestler could be. When The Undertaker debuted in 1990, nobody could have predicted what he would become. A 7-foot specter in a trench coat and a wide-brimmed hat, managed by a man in a funeral director's suit. It sounded almost cartoonish on paper. But the moment that music hit, that slow, haunting, church bell toll, something changed in every arena he walked into. You could feel it. Fans who had been screaming and jumping seconds before would suddenly go quiet. Even the most hardened wrestling veterans in the locker room admitted it. There was something about The Undertaker that was different. Something real. Something heavy. Over the next 3.5 decades, he became the most decorated, most respected, most feared presence in WWE history. 25 years of WrestleMania memories. The streak. Rivalries that defined eras against Shawn Michaels, Triple H, Kane, Mankind, Brock Lesnar, Bray Wyatt. Each one a chapter in the greatest career this industry has ever seen. And then, in 2020, at WrestleMania 36, inside an empty performance center during one of the most surreal moments in WWE history, The Undertaker rode off into the sunset. His final farewell. Emotional. Beautiful. Definitive. Or so we thought. Because here's what nobody accounted for. The Undertaker doesn't operate by the same rules as the rest of us. He never has. The man who conquered death as a character seems almost allergic to retirement as a reality. And honestly, deep down, I think every single one of us, every wrestling fan who ever stayed up past midnight just to see if he'd appear, we all secretly hoped this day would come. And today, it did. The announcement dropped like a lightning strike. No slow build-up. No mysterious vignettes, though knowing WWE, those might still come. No weeks of teasing. Just The Undertaker, stone-faced and powerful as ever, stepping forward and making it known he is entering the 2026 Elimination Chamber. Now, let's talk about what this means on a competitive level, because this isn't just symbolic. The Elimination Chamber is one of the most brutal, unforgiving match types in WWE history. 6 competitors. 5 pods. One massive steel structure surrounding the ring, the floor covered in thick chains and steel grating. You don't just win an Elimination Chamber match, you survive it. Your body pays a price that can't be measured in points or statistics. It's measured in blood, in bruises, in the sheer willpower required to keep standing when every instinct in your body is screaming at you to stay down. And The Undertaker is walking into that. Not walking in as a special attraction. Not walking in for a feel-good moment. Walking in to compete. To win. To potentially earn himself a title shot at WrestleMania 2026. Let me just pause for a second and let that visual hit you. The Undertaker. In the Elimination Chamber. At this stage of his life, with all the wear in his legendary career etched into every scar on his body, standing across the steel grating from some of the best competitors in WWE today. Eyes locked. Throat-cutting gesture. Lights going out. You feel that? That chill running down your spine? That's the Undertaker effect. And apparently, it is very much still alive. Now I know what some of you might be thinking, and I hear you. Is he really going to be able to compete at this level? Is this smart? Is this good for his legacy? These are fair questions, legitimate questions, and I'm going to address every single one of them. First, let's talk about The Undertaker's physical condition, because a lot of people assume that after decades of punishment, the man must be broken down beyond repair. And look, the wear is real. He's been open about his surgeries, his hip replacements, the physical toll of his career. But here's what people forget: The Undertaker has always been disciplined. Obsessively so. The man who spent decades conditioning his body to do things most athletes couldn't dream of didn't suddenly stop taking care of himself the moment he stepped away from the ring. Reports from people close to him describe someone who has spent the years since 2020 rehabilitating, training, and staying in remarkable shape for a man of his age and career history. This is not a broken-down legend limping back for a paycheck. This is a man who has spent years quietly preparing for exactly this moment. Second, the legacy question. I understand the concern. Some legends come back and it diminishes what they built. We've seen it happen. It's painful when it does. But here's where The Undertaker's situation is unique. His legacy is so ironclad, so deeply embedded in wrestling history, that even his worst possible performance in the chamber cannot touch it. The streak. The decades of iconic moments. The respect of every single person who has ever laced up a pair of boots, none of that goes away. If anything, the fact that he's willing to walk back into that brutality at this stage? That adds to the legend. That is The Undertaker being exactly who he has always been. Fearless. Unconventional. Larger than life. And third, and this might be the most exciting part of this entire conversation, what does this mean for the current WWE roster? Think about the names that could be in that chamber with him. Think about a young, hungry superstar, someone building their legacy right now who suddenly has to look across that steel structure and stare down the most terrifying presence in wrestling history. Think about what that does to their psyche. Think about what it does to their career trajectory if they survive or if they don't. An Elimination Chamber appearance against The Undertaker doesn't just add a line to your resume. It defines you. It marks you. It tells the entire world something about who you are as a competitor. Imagine the promo packages. Imagine the confrontations during the match itself, the way The Undertaker operates inside a chamber. The slow stalk. The big boot. The chokeslam onto that cold steel grating. The tombstone piledriver in the most brutal environment imaginable. The storytelling possibilities alone are enough to make any wrestling fan lose their mind. And can we just take a second to appreciate what it's been like online today? Because the wrestling community absolutely lost its collective mind when this news broke. Social media has been an absolute war zone of emotions. You've got the pure fans, people who grew up watching The Undertaker, who remember running home from school to watch him compete, who maybe even had a small panic attack of excitement when the announcement dropped. These people are celebrating like it's WrestleMania morning. Then you've got the analytical crowd, the ones furiously typing out thread after thread about the logistics, the match possibilities, the physical concerns, the booking implications. These people haven't slept. Their brains are moving at 1,000 miles an hour. And then, bless their hearts, you've got the skeptics, the he's too old crowd, the protect his legacy crowd. And look, I respect the concern. I genuinely do. But here's something I've learned about wrestling fans over many years of covering this sport: we are almost never right when we predict that a legendary return will be a disappointment. Almost every time one of these moments happens, every time a legend steps back into the spotlight, there's that initial wave of worry, and then the lights hit, and the music plays, and suddenly nobody is worried anymore. Suddenly, everybody is on their feet. Because that's what wrestling does. That's what great performers do. They make you believe. And if there is one person alive who can still make you believe, who can make you forget every concern and every calculation the moment he steps through that curtain, it is The Undertaker. Let me paint you a picture. It's the night of the 2026 Elimination Chamber. The arena is electric. The chamber structure is lowered from the ceiling, all steel and chain link and cold fluorescent light, and it is terrifying and beautiful in equal measure. 5 superstars are already inside the pods, waiting for the match to begin. The crowd is buzzing with anticipation. And then the arena goes dark. Complete darkness. 1 second. 2 seconds. 3 seconds of absolute, pitch-black silence. And then that bell tolls. Gong. The crowd doesn't just erupt. The crowd detonates. 20, 30,000 people on their feet before a single spotlight has even flickered on. And when that purple light slowly rises and illuminates the entrance, and that massive silhouette appears, hat, coat, head bowed, the sound in that building reaches a frequency that you don't just hear. You feel it in your chest. You feel it in your bones. The Undertaker is in the Elimination Chamber. And every single person locked in that structure with him, every hungry, ambitious, talented competitor who thought they had this match figured out, is suddenly, deeply, existentially afraid. You know what I keep coming back to, thinking about this announcement? I keep thinking about what this means for the fans. Wrestling is, at its best, about connection. About the shared experience of watching something that feels bigger than the sport itself. And The Undertaker has always represented something bigger. He's represented persistence. He's represented the idea that some forces are simply too powerful to ever fully be put to rest. He's represented the dark, mythic side of professional wrestling, the part that lives in your imagination long after the match is over, long after the lights in the arena have gone dark. For parents who watched him in the 90s, this is a chance to share something with their kids that no highlight reel could ever fully capture. For the kids who discovered wrestling in the 2010s and spent hours watching his greatest moments on replay, this is a chance to be there live. To be present for history. To be able to say, years from now, I was watching the night The Undertaker stepped back into the chamber. That is not nothing. That is everything. So here's where we stand. The 2026 Elimination Chamber now has a name on it that nobody could have predicted and everybody secretly dreamed about. The Undertaker has declared his entry, and the wrestling world is holding its breath, waiting to see what comes next. Who are his opponents going to be? What title is on the line? What kind of story does WWE build around this? And most importantly, can the Deadman do what he has always done, and deliver a performance that reminds the entire world exactly why his name is spoken in a different tone than every other name in this industry? I believe the answer is yes. I believe it because of who this man is. Because of the discipline and the passion and the sheer force of will that has defined every single chapter of his career. And I believe it because wrestling, at its greatest moments, is about more than athletics or storytelling or business. It's about magic. And The Undertaker has always been the greatest magician this sport has ever known. He doesn't just make you suspend your disbelief. He makes you forget you ever had any. So let me ask you something before we wrap up today. Where were you the first time The Undertaker's music hit and made you feel something? What's the moment, the match, the entrance, the promo that made you a believer? Because I think right now, all across the world, wrestling fans are going back to that moment in their memory. Feeling it all over again. Remembering why they fell in love with this crazy, beautiful, unpredictable sport in the first place. That's the power of this announcement. That's the power of The Undertaker. And here on Wrestling Impact, we are going to be covering every single development of this story as it unfolds. Every confrontation, every promo, every backstage development, every rumor worth talking about, we've got you covered. Because this is exactly the kind of moment that reminds us all why we are here. Why we dedicate our passion and our energy to this sport. Why we gather together as a community and share in moments that take our breath away. If this video got you fired up, if you felt that electricity in your chest when you pictured those lights going dark and that bell tolling, hit that like button right now. Because I want to see how many true believers we have in this community. Drop your reaction in the comments. Tell me what you think about The Undertaker entering the 2026 Elimination Chamber. Tell me who you want to see him face inside that structure. Tell me if you think he can win it. This comment section is about to be one of the most passionate conversations we've ever had on this channel, and I want to hear every voice. And if you are new to Wrestling Impact and this is the first video you found us through, welcome home. Subscribe to the channel. Turn on your notifications. Because this is only the beginning of this story, and we are going to be here for every single chapter. The Deadman is back. Rest in peace to anyone who doubted him.